Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are moments in the life of a country when people stop asking for promises and they start asking for honesty. And this is one of those moments. Canadians are not confused about what's happening around them. They see it every day with their bills, when they put groceries back on the shelf, or when their adult children move back home, because even full-time work no longer guarantees independence. They know that something is wrong. And what makes it worse is that they are being told not to believe their very own eyes. The Liberal government says that the economy is not in a recession, that affordability hasn't been this good in 10 years. But Canadians know the truth because they are living the truth. The truth is that under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada has become the only country in a recession in the G7. The truth is that Canadian households now carry the worst debt burden in the G7. The truth is that housing costs in Canada are now amongst the worst in the industrialized world. And the truth is that our unemployment rate is now the second highest in the G7. This did not happen by accident. Policies have consequences. The Liberal government has governed as though debt were imaginary, as though growth would somehow appear without productivity, as though governments could endlessly spend money they do not have without asking working people to eventually carry the cost. But Canadians are carrying the cost. They carry it every time the rent goes up, every time interest rates rise, and mortgages are up for renewal, every time they hear another announcement from a government that mistakes press conferences for progress. The Prime Minister likes to say that Canada will move at speeds not seen in generations. And I will say this. When Canadians first heard those words, they wanted to believe them. But now, after more than a year in government, the results have not matched the rhetoric. The Liberal recession means declining growth. It means our economy shrinking. It means Canada is not moving at speeds not seen in generations. It means Canada is falling behind. And this is not just a criticism, it's the reality that Canadians are living with and businesses are responding to. The Prime Minister is traveling the world trying to sell Canada to investors while blowing $200,000 on in-flight catering over 3 flights. But what is he selling? A Canada where major projects still take too long and approvals are uncertain. A Canada where the tanker ban remains in place. And Bill C-69 continues to scare away billions of dollars in investment. A Canada where housing starts are not rising at speeds not seen in generations, but slowing at a pace not seen in generations. We hear members opposite boast about the Prime Minister's resume. But a fancy resume does not matter to investors looking for opportunities in a business-friendly environment. In fact, in 2025, 45%, or $44 billion of all foreign direct investment into Canada consisted of foreign purchases buying up Canadian businesses rather than building new facilities or expanding productive capacity. Canada used to build national champions, but now increasingly we are selling them. We do not need better marketing, we need a Canada that is actually open for business. We have energy, critical minerals, the workers, the talent, the geography. We have people who are hungry to build, to work, to invest, to grow. What we do not have yet is a government creating the conditions for investor confidence. And the Liberal government has given itself extraordinary powers. It has the Major Projects Office. It has given itself a majority government through dirty backroom deals. So it should have the ability to move. So where are the major projects? Where's the urgency to meet this moment? They talk about unleashing Canadian energy, but the tanker ban remains. They talk about building homes, but housing construction in the GTA and Vancouver has collapsed, and 100,000 people are now out of work. They talk about mines, manufacturing, productivity, but the regulatory reform needed to restore investor confidence is still not there. They talk about moving quickly, but Canadians keep seeing the same pattern. Announcement first, action later, and too often, action never. And should we really be surprised? The Prime Minister is surrounded by the same Liberal team that delivered the last decade. He can steal our ideas, but does he really believe in them? Because we know the team around him is not willing to do what it takes to fully implement those ideas and restore Canada's economy. And so Canadians are stuck with the same Liberal pattern: announcement followed by failure to follow through. Conservatives put forward practical ideas more than a year ago. The Canadian Sovereign Act, the removal of industrial carbon tax, the removal of HST on all new homes worth up to $1.3 million, shovel-ready project zones, and capital gains deferrals so we can kickstart our economy and bring wealth home for our people. In the last election, we laid out an ambitious agenda for the first 100 days to set the tone on energy, crime, competitiveness, and affordability. Because urgency matters. Now, more than a year later, only a tiny sliver of that vision has been implemented, and the Liberals are wondering why things haven't changed. The Liberals dismissed most of those ideas. Then they copied them halfway and failed in the implementation. And the ideas that would have had the biggest impact are still sitting on the sidelines. Half measures will not reverse a lost decade. Yes, Canada faces challenges with the US, trade uncertainty is real, but Canada is not the only country facing those challenges. Yet this government wants to blame every failure on geography. On the one hand, the Prime Minister says Canada has the best trade deal with the US of any country in the world, and says he wants to help make America great again. On the other hand, he blames our proximity to the United States for our lack of growth and says that there is a permanent rupture in our relationship. So which is it? The truth is that Canada has what the world wants, but the world is not yet convinced this Liberal government will do what is necessary to unlock it. Think about this. Oil prices have soared, yet Canada is still in a recession. We have the best free trade agreement with the US, yet Canada is still in a recession. We have the critical minerals the world needs, yet Canada is still in a recession. And yet, as I sit in this House, all I hear from the Liberal benches is deflection after deflection and excuse after excuse. Wake up and take responsibility. This is not simply something that is happening to Canada. It is a result of slow execution, weak confidence, and a government that confuses announcements with achievements. When will the Liberals realize that the cause of the recession is not Canada or Canadians? It is them and their failed policies. Canadians do not need more hollow speeches. We need ambition, but ambition in law, in approvals, in construction, in energy, in mining, in manufacturing, in paychecks. We need a government that passes laws and delivers results. Because the problem is not that Canada lacks potential. The problem is that this Liberal government has not yet had the courage or the urgency to move beyond announcements and get serious about implementation and finally unleash our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the Bank of Canada has indicated that implied that the Conservative Party is actually being a little unrealistic by trying to suggest that Canada is in a recession when in fact, Mr. Speaker, you know, it's a decimal one and there's a number of different indicators, yet the Conservatives seem to be glee over the fact that there appears to be a recession in their minds, and that they're happy for Canadians on that fact. I'm wondering if she could just explain why it is the Conservative Party is so happy to see Canadians having a difficult time.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, I mean, the member says that we appear to be glee when the only ones in this House who stand up question period after question period to say, we have good news, we have good news, is that side of the aisle. And the reality is, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about statistics. Our economy has shrunk in 3 out of the last 4 quarters. The only country in the G7 to be in a recession, the worst household debt in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7. We have countless of indicators, Mr. Speaker, to tell us a story. And what is most concerning is that the member wants to deny all of this, pretend it's not happening. They're never going to fix this problem.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Jonquière.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What explains the economic slowdown in part is the tariff war that we have with the United States. So it's one thing to criticize the government, but you also have to make proposals from time to time. There's a sector that is more affected than others, and that is the softwood lumber sector. And there's a solution that's been in the air for some time now that's been proposed in collaboration with unions and employers in the forestry sector, a program where we could buy back countervailing duties, part of the countervailing and anti-dumping duties. I'm sure that my Conservative colleagues are aware of this plan. Would they agree with giving a shot in the arm to the forestry sector by putting in place that program of buying back countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties? The honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for his question. He is right. Part of a solution, drafting a solution, is actually acknowledging the problem, which is what this Liberal government is failing to do. The Conservatives have put forward practical ideas more than a year ago, and I provided a list, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat it. The Canadian Sovereignty Act, the removal of the industrial carbon tax, the removal of the HST on all new homes worth up to $1.3 million, shovel-ready project zones, the capital gains deferral so we can kickstart our economy and bring wealth home to our people. And in fact, we had provided a plan for the first 100 days to set the tone, Mr. Speaker, on energy, crime, competitiveness, and affordability. This is the plan that the Conservatives have put forward and we have been advocating for.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Provencher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from Newmarket Aurora for her excellent speech and her excellent analysis of the situation that we find ourselves here in Canada, where the Liberals refuse, and this Prime Minister in particular, refused to acknowledge the data provided by Stats Canada, that we are in a recession, and we're the only country in the G7 in a recession. I'm wondering if the member has any thoughts on why the Prime Minister and his Liberal colleagues refuse to admit the seriousness of our financial situation here in Canada.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for his question. I think it's inconvenient for the Prime Minister to acknowledge the reality. And it goes completely against what he campaigned for and what he says every single day. He talks about moving at speeds not seen in generations. He talks about, he delivers grand speeches, Mr. Speaker, but the reality is these indicators that we're looking at in terms of the economy are confirming the stories that we have heard from the people in our ridings, the people that are struggling. They already knew that these indicators were about to be released because they have been living it. They know the truth, but the Prime Minister is so disconnected that he can't even acknowledge the reality that Canadians are living.